Hi Pilates friend, thank you for joining me today. Today what we're going to do is just a really nice little treat for the feet and a little bit of stretching for the hip flexors and a little bit of rotation for your upper back. And the whole point of all of this is to kind of get ready to go on a nice long walk. So the feet are going to feel mobilized, they're going to feel energized, they're going to feel strong. And then we're just going to touch a little bit on sort of the mechanics of what needs to happen to open up through the front of the hips so you can take a nice big confident step. And then also a little bit what happens with the rib cage. And we're going to try to do this all in a really short amount of time. So I have a few things that you're going to need to gather for this little mini workout today. A chair or a stool or something that you can comfortably sit on, either a tennis ball or a pinky ball. I have a yoga block and a TheraBand. So lots of toys, fast, quick, yummy. Here we go. So I'm going to take the ball down and I'm just going to do a little generalized foot rollouts. We're not going to get super specific today because there's a bunch of other things I want to get to. But just start to kind of mash around onto the bottom of the foot. And what I often find what happens when we do these little feet rollouts is we kind of start to like lean away from the ball and we don't get much pressure. So I'll go side view for a second. So you really want to see if you can kind of get your body weight into it and almost feel like you're giving the ball a massage as opposed to the ball giving your foot a massage, so that you are really kneading the bottom of the foot like dough. Ooh. And then if you find, I'm just finding a fun little spot right there, kind of on the middle of my foot and the big toe line. You could just stay there for a minute, some snap, crackle, and pops there. Let's go to the other side. So nothing too specific, just kind of mashing the bottom of the foot where it feels like it needs a little bit of love. And seeing if you can really get your body weight to kind of lean down like you're imagining that you're smashing the ball into the basement of whatever building you're in right now. Or if you're outside, kind of like down to the center of the earth. And again, if you find, if you find a little fun spot somewhere, stay there. That's your body telling you that you need to spend a little more time in that area. It shouldn't feel painful, but it should feel like you're affecting some change in the tissues on the bottom of the foot. Let's do just a couple more little passes here. Okay, and then we're gonna set the ball off to the side. Make sure that you don't trip on it. I'm just gonna put it back in my little basket here. And then we're gonna grab your stool or your chair and just have a nice comfortable seat. So the next one, what we're gonna do is working on the twisting action of the foot. And this one's really nice because what actually happens when we walk is we often think about I'm gonna use my hand as my foot. We often think about the foot as just kind of going through the center and rolling, but it actually takes a little bit of a circuitous path. So we kind of strike on the outer heel and then we roll through the center of the foot diagonally and then push off the big toe. It's a very simplified version of what happens. So we're gonna work on that spiral a little bit. I've crossed one ankle over my opposite knee. I'm gonna take my opposite hand to my foot and hold onto my heel like I'm holding onto a doorknob. I'm gonna take the same hand and hold on to where my toes are. And then I'm gonna start to wring my foot, kind of trying to spin my heel and my forefoot in opposite directions, like I'm wringing out a dirty dish rag. And you'll find that you have more movement where the toes are in your forefoot for sure. So what you're gonna see if you can do for most of us generally is we lose a little bit of that mobility through the heel. And so you want to maybe just see if you can hold the forefoot stable and just kind of give your heel a little wiggle around. And so we're spinning the foot, plus it feels kind of nice. It's like a little massage for your foot before you stick them in your walking shoes and go for a walk outside. All right, and then let's release that out and let's go to the other side. So crossing the ankle over the knee, grabbing a hold of your heel, grabbing a hold of the forefoot with the opposite, and then you're going to start to spin. You just want the foot to be nice and relaxed here. And I'm really using the heels of my hands, kind of the palm, to guide the movement. I'll twist a little bit so you guys can see, or you can see. Maybe you're watching this with a friend, I don't know. Grab a friend, everyone needs foot love. And so this side for me, my heel is definitely stickier. So I'm gonna just kind of give my heel a little wiggle around, kind of like I'm turning a doorknob. Okay, it's always nice to look at the feet after that. They look really alive, get some blood flow in. So now I'm gonna go ahead and take my yoga block and I'm gonna place it underneath one foot, and I'm also gonna grab my TheraBand. So this is when we get a little weird. Just go with it, it's helpful, promise. Okay, so I'm going to have my big toe kind of hanging off one side of the block. I'm gonna take my band and I'm gonna wrap it around my big toe. Okay, I have nice orange nails today, maybe you guys can see on camera. I'm gonna give myself a moderate amount of tension onto that toe. And then the trick here is, this is tough, you might not have a lot of movement, is I'm gonna try to keep all 4 of my little other toes pretty still. And I'm gonna see if I can get my big toe to curl down into the band. Good luck, let's do about 10 of them. And again, you might need to play. See, my second toe really wants to come along with me, so I gotta work on this. And if that's not grooving for you, this position, you can also just hang all of your toes off and see if you can get the big toe. That's working a little better for me today down. So the main thing that we're working on here is getting that last phase of your gait, of your walking patterning, which is that big toe joint push off. A lot of us have a really tough time with that. We lose a bit of mobility in our big toe joints for whatever reason, but that connection helps to connect all the way up into our inner thigh, up into our hip, up into our core stabilizing muscles. Crazy, I know. So the more that we can get the foot to be alive, to be energized, to be very intelligent, the better the rest of our body can accommodate that gait patterning. Okay. So what I'm gonna do is just leave my block and toss it a little bit, and then I'm gonna lay my band out, and I'm gonna do a little inchworm action. So it doesn't have to be super specific, but I'm gonna try to gather up the band with my toes. So this is actually a Pilates exercise, so we can still call this like Pilates for walking. This is a variation of an exercise called short foot. So we're thinking about shortening the foot, but I'm really trying to get very articulate with my toes and kind of pull that band in. About 10 of them, or until you feel like the band is getting scrunched. If you have kiddos, it's a fun one to do with your kids. It's kind of silly. You can do it with a towel or the band. Okay, let's switch to the other side. So I'm gonna go ahead and take the block down, and then I'm gonna bring my foot onto the block. And again, either the toes can hang off the front, or you can have your big toe hanging off of the side if that feels like it's giving you a little better support and action. I'm gonna wrap my band around my big toe, just super moderate tension. It's actually more, oh yeah, this side, ooh, hello. So I'm gonna bring my foot forward. That's working a little bit better for me today. It's actually more for feedback than it is for resistance. So it doesn't, you don't wanna feel like, oh my gosh, it's cramping. And also don't give yourself a head trip if your toe doesn't move that much. One of my favorite teachers from long ago, she just used to say, just get obsessed with your feet. It doesn't really matter what they're doing so specifically, even though we're working very specifically today. Just start to think about your feet and all the movement potential in your feet. It's pretty wild. Tons of bones, tons of joints. Hi, big toe. Okay, I'm gonna work on you over the next couple weeks. And then come off of this, scoot that block out. You're gonna lay your band down, just kind of non-specifically. And then what we're gonna do is start to scrunch up the band with your toes. Okay. About 10 of them. I'm running out of band, so I'm just gonna keep kind of picking it up and down. Excellent. Okay, so I'm gonna toss my band out to the side, and then I'm going to use my stool and my block for a little bit of calf and heel mobilization. So I'm gonna set up my block, and then I'm gonna put my hands onto my chair just for a little bit of support, and then I'm gonna bring the balls of the feet onto my block. Now my block is a little squishy, so it may tip, so just be safe here. And then I'm just gonna start to jog, taking one heel down, getting a little calf stretch. And so because we're in this bent over position, couple things to note here. Just notice if you're really rounded. If so, you might need to lift up a little bit higher so there's not so much stretch on your hamstrings. But the nice thing about being in this position is you can really look to see what your feet, what your ankles, what your knees are doing. So do they want to turn out? Do they want to turn in? Is your preference to have more weight on the pinky toe side of the foot, more weight on the heel toe side of or the big toe side of the foot? See if you can really even it out. So you're getting a nice spread through all 10 toes. And the weight is kind of somewhat balanced right in between that second and third toe, nice and even. Let's just take a little calf stretch there, breathe. Without tipping the block. And over to the other side, breathe. And then you're gonna come on down, okay, and usually do this up against a wall, so do the best you can. You're gonna put one foot on top of the block, and then you're gonna see if you can catch your toes on the lip and give a little stretch as the toes go up. Just hang out there for a second. And let's switch to the other side. So bringing the foot on top of the block, spread the toes down. So now we're kind of working the toes in the opposite direction as we did with that TheraBand. And then let that go. Let's go ahead and toss the block off. All right, last thing, getting into a little hip stretching. So I'm gonna sit facing one side of the chair, and I have one tush cheek kind of off the chair. Okay, so I'm gonna have to work a little bit through my pelvis. I'm gonna take one foot back behind me, and here's that push off again. So I'm feeling a little bit of connection to the back of my hip. I'm gonna hold onto the chair with my same hand that my knee is in front, and then take the opposite hand back behind me. I'm gonna this is my right side, so my right tush cheek is off the chair. I'm gonna let my right hip drop a little bit, feeling that nice stretch through the front of the thigh, and then I'm gonna rotate my spine. And then come back to level. Let's just do 3 more. So here we go. We've got that push of the foot. We've got that lengthening of the hip and the rotation of the rib cage. These are all things that happen when we take one little step. It's pretty amazing. Good. And one more. Let's switch to the other side. Okay. So these are all kind of areas of the body that tend to get a little sticky sometimes. The front of our hip, kind of in our hip flexor psoas area. The ribs kind of stop moving around as much as we would like. Feet definitely get a little stiff. So I'm gonna let that hip drop. And then I'm gonna do a little rotation. Gather my loose shirt a little bit today. Felt like being a little more comfortable today. Let the knee drop, rotate away from the back leg. Oh, feels good. A little stretch through the hips and rotate and up. And one more rotate and up. I'm gonna come back to center. Gonna stand up, gonna feel my feet, spread my toes, stand tall. I go put on my shoes and go for a nice little walk outside. Thanks so much for joining me. That was a lot of information today. So if any questions, always feel free to reach out, comment, check out my website, www.root-and-limb.com, and I'll see you guys soon. Take good care. Bye.